Hello from Rhode Island, where I live, as we await the all's clear to get back to the RT America Broadcast Center in Washington. And so many of us are working remotely these days that telecommuting and video conferencing have become second nature. How will technology reshape the new normal? Dave Graveline joins us in just a few minutes. But first, we're hearing so much about supply chain disruption lately. And this is not just a pickle for manufacturers. It's hitting home at the kitchen table. In a recent virtual Senate committee meeting, Kansas Republican Pat Roberts said people are finally realizing that food doesn't come from a store. And if you have masked up and browsed the one-way street aisles at the supermarket lately, it is a creepy experience, and you have seen some bare shelves. Is this the new normal? Let's ask the host of the American Family Farmer Radio Show, himself a working farmer, Doug Stephan. Dougster, welcome back.
I put my mask on just for you, but I took it off because you wouldn't be able to understand whatever I was coming out with. Thank you.
It was nearly 3 years ago, one of the very first shows I did when I came to RT America. You said something that was a mouthful. You said in 50 years, we will not be able to feed ourselves. And lately, I'm thinking about that mythical doomsday clock that shows us how many minutes and seconds we are away from nuclear annihilation. Has the countdown clock to starvation advanced even during this pandemic?
Well, you make it dramatic because you're so good at that, but you have also a great memory. Yes, I did tell you that, and I've been saying that to my radio audiences, both on the American Family Farmer and the DJV program, for a long time. My background, having grown up around cows, been on the farm all my life, I've seen things that all of us have sort of taken for granted, whether we lived on the farm or whether we were benefiting from the products that came from the farm. We knew the farm, we knew the farmer, we knew what we wanted to go buy, we could watch it grow as we drove by. You know, that stuff is all over the past 25, maybe 30 years. That stuff has been dwindling. The ability to see the farmer and get on the farm, that experience has been going away. What's happened, I did say in the next 50 years, we were going to have a problem, but you're right. It has, this whole pandemic, if you want to call it that, the virus, has short-circuited the time clock. So we are now living in what I futuristically said was going to happen around the year 20, remember that old song from Zager and Evans in the year 2424?
Oh, yeah.
Or
yeah,
2525.
Yeah.
2525, yeah. So right now, we see going to the supermarket that there isn't beef, there isn't pork, there isn't chicken, there aren't vegetables. It is, you go into even the upscale supermarkets, and the aisles are empty, the shelves are bare. And so people say, wait a minute, what's going on? And what is good about this, Holland, is that many people have now started to realize that they need to go to the source. So where I was pessimistic about what we knew or didn't know, or what we could or couldn't do in a few years, what's happening in some regions of the country anyway is that people are going direct. They're going back to the future, if you will. They are going to the farm. They're joining CSAs, the dairy farmers who have had a horrible time the last 3 or 4 years. The smart ones are they're buying little processing units, and because the milk, you've seen pictures of the milk, the video of the milk being poured out down the drain because the government and Dean Foods and Dairy Farmers of America, all the big agents of destruction in the dairy business, have had their wish come true. They buy lots of cheap milk produced by cows on 5,000-10,000 cow farms. But now that production has spoiled the ability of the small family farmer to add to what they call the pool. So anyway, to make a long story short, the smart guys are creating ways in which they can sell direct to the consumer is finding those farms. And you can see pictures upstate New York, for example, there's 3 or 4 farms. They have this little processing unit. people are lining up out the driveway and down the street to get the product. And so it's a whole new appreciation and understanding of where the food comes from and how we can procure it for ourselves. We've figured out a way, at least partially. We're not there yet, because the government still is in the way with stupid rules and regulations in terms of how we get food, how it's distributed. So that has to be worked on.
Yeah, I'm glad we're thinking about this more. And you hit a nerve a minute ago, because two of the saddest things I have seen lately are that video of the milk being dumped, which has to hit a nerve since you're a dairy farmer. And what about these pigs being euthanized rather than brought to market? How, in a country that worries about food insecurity, can we be throwing away food before it gets to the consumer? Why does this happen?
Well, there are two or three different answers. One of them is that the Chinese are the government of the not the people, but the Chinese government is the culprit all the way, all across the board. The problem with the virus created in a laboratory, spreading around the world. But you'll remember, I think, in my last visit here to you, I was talking about the Chinese buying up Smithfield pork producers, the largest pork producing company in the world. It's an American company. The Chinese now own it, and they have had nothing but trouble, not only with keeping the plants going here, in part because of the virus, but there are other problems, the way the Chinese run things versus the way Americans want to work at their whatever their job is. But then there is the fact that they have had so much problem raising pork over there. They have swine flu that they've had to deal with. They've had to get rid of a lot of pork. So they're over here buying up our processes, and then they take the pork back to China in part. The plants in Iowa and I think 2 or 3 other states that are Smithfield plants have been shut down because the workers are loaded with coronavirus. They can't work.
Gotcha.
One plant, I think 700 people have the virus, so they've shut it down. So they can't get the pork through the processing plants. It's the same with chicken. The Tyson people, they can't get the chicken processed because A, there are so few places to process now, and B, because there isn't enough slaughterhouses. The government's closed them all down. And so you've got this like perfect storm of characters and governments and businesses that have colluded because they're greedy and because the Chinese want to control the world. It's all come together at the same time, and it isn't a hiccup, it's a burp.
Yeah. Big corporate ag here and there. You mentioned Washington's cluelessness about farming. We're speaking with Doug Stephan, host of the American Family Farmer radio show, heard on stations across the USA each weekend. I'm down to a couple of minutes, which for you is a short answer. But what can people watching us crab about to their senators and their representative in Washington that would help fix the farming situation?
Well, one of the things they can do to fix without going to the government is to join a local CSA. CSAs are sprouting up on farms all over the place. This is the perfect time of year to do it. Line up your supply of food from now, at least until the winter, and see where that goes. The second thing is, I'm saying this on my radio programs, I'm not voting for anybody who doesn't agree to encourage, to somehow incentivize bringing all the American businesses that are in China back to America. You've seen some of that plant, the Taiwan plant being built in Arizona this week, that announcement. But you got to bring back all of the things that are there. And we need to have Congress understand that there are a lot of stupid laws that they've enacted or predecessors have enacted that get in the way, if you will, of food security. One of the national laws and regional laws is the fact that restaurants in most cities are not allowed to give away the food at the end of the night. They have to throw it away instead of giving it to people who can use it. We have
That's crazy.
Food like you wouldn't believe. And you support things like Feeding America, that sort of thing. But also, there are a lot of local food banks that are doing wonderful work with the support of farmers in their area. So support your local farmer and encourage the people that are, we've got, and I know I'm running out of time, but the ag department is run by a buffoon, and it just doesn't, they haven't They have they haven't addressed the problems, the issues. They get all this money and they're giving it to the wrong people.
Hey, don't sugarcoat it. Tell us how you really feel. You know, the buzzword we're hearing, to your point about bringing manufacturing and production back to the USA, the buzzword we're hearing is reshoring. And so that we don't lapse into lingo, you've said something a couple of times that I want to make sure we explain to the viewer briefly. You said CSA. What's that?
CSA is it's the community-supported agriculture. And most areas now, they have farmers markets, they have CSA. You buy a share for about, most farms, $600-700 a year, and you get all the vegetables that from now, lettuce is growing in most areas to the end of the season for squash, but you get all the things that are produced.
Wow.
And it's something that, you know, $600 for a year of vegetables, that's a pretty good deal.
All you can eat, as they say. Doug Stephan, the American Family Farmer Radio Show. Thanks for your time tonight, and stay safe, pal.
You too, Benny.
During the shutdown, more than 36 million Americans have applied for unemployment benefits, and the states are overwhelmed. Under the circumstances, the federal government requires states to pay claims within a few weeks, even if the employer has not confirmed that the applicant is eligible. And that is scam catnip. Recently here, attorney Steve Wiseman has explained the various ways the wise guys are using the pandemic to rip you off. And on his website, scamicide.com, he explains how to keep them from stealing your unemployment money. Like most rip-offs, your Social Security number is the skeleton key that they use to rob you. And some states, including right here where I live in Rhode Island, are getting hit harder than others. So you may want to read up on this at scamicide.com. Coming up, unless you've been caught literally with your pants down in a Zoom meeting, technology has been your friend during the shutdown. How will tech reshape the new normal? Radio tech talker Dave Graveline will take us into tomorrow when we come back. This is The Big Picture on RT America.
You cannot be lonely with the app you like.
تعرف انت يعني لما بتكون انت عايش بمكان شوي الضوء فيه خفيف بيكون صعب عليك تشوف نور كتير عالي فبتواجهه شوي باعتراض انه شو هاد لا طفيه انه ما بدي اشوف هيدا الشيء انه بدهم وقت لحتى يتعودوا يعني انا مستوعبتها لهيدي الفكره.
This is the only thing that we do is music because everybody fights in his own way.
المشروع اللي كنت عم فكر فيه هو كان بيزبط بسوريا لأنه هي يعني هون لأنه هي بلدنا عرفت شو الفكرة مو منطلق.
What I think is this is the time that is our country needs us.
Join me every Thursday on The Alex Salmon Show, when I'll be speaking to guests on the world of politics, sport, business, and show business. I'll see you then.
When they reopen, what would it take to get you to go to a movie theater?
Yet you can't get a promotion, you won't retire. Despite your best efforts, you refuse to die. You should be at least a 2-star admiral by now. Yet here you are. Captain. What is that?
It's one of life's mysteries, sir.
Air escort to Greyhound. You will now be out of range of air cover for the next 5 days. Safe travels to England. How many crossings does this make?
This was my first.
I got some.
Most likely a U-boat.
He's trying to slip under us! Fire!
We have a kill.
Welcome to the future. Life is good, but it can be better. And why shouldn't it be? All you need is to want it.
Back on Easter weekend, we were supposed to see the 25th James Bond movie, the very last with the blonde Bond, Daniel Craig as 007. But with the virus looming, the theatrical release was pushed back to November. The title, No Time to Die. While we have spent several months avoiding crowds and with the streaming services offering freebies, home video has become the technology-driven trend among others that were already in motion, like e-commerce and telecommuting. How will technology reshape the new normal? Let's ask Dave Graveline, radio's top tech talker, host of Into Tomorrow on a couple of hundred radio stations across the USA and around the world. Dave joins us from his broadcast center in Miami. Hello again.
Hello, Holland. How are you, sir?
Well, we're all coping, aren't we? And while we have tolerated in the past people talking in the movies, I don't think we're ready for people coughing in the movies. And in the meantime, while we're cooped up, we've had free previews from HBO and Epix and Stars. I've loaded my DVR, and inevitable attendance restrictions in the movies are sure to be there. Is the movie theater a dead duck now?
Well, Holland, some people say they are, but I think we have to take a look at how long movie theaters have survived. Remember when radio was dead because of TV? Well, that obviously didn't happen, fortunately. People were going to the movies since before TV was around. TV came out. People said, oh, movies are obsolete. They remained. Then color TV came out and said, oh, for sure, TVs, movies, dead. But they remained again. Then cable TV, well, then movie rentals, Blu-ray, on demand. The movie industry is one that I think has adapted. So very few films these days are actually shot on film. And theaters no longer use film to project the movies. It's all digital. Gone are the days of reels of film being delivered to each theater. Now, of course, movies are simply downloaded to a hard drive. And that shows how I think the industry has adapted to these newer technologies. When we can return to the theaters, the movie-going experience will probably be a lot different. And it may even be more expensive, so prepare for that. But I think for the most part, listeners and theaters will want to go to theaters. They'll survive. Even if studios continue to offer movies on demand at the same time they're shown in the theaters, many people still enjoy the experience of going to the movies. And even if you can get it at home, it's $20 a pop. That's crazy.
Yeah, you know, I think the art house will always be there, and I think these brew pub, cinema, and draft house places where you're already pretty well socially distanced, they'll do well. And look who's making a comeback. Drive-ins are opening up for the summer, and that's kind of cool. But in the meantime, we've been in stay-at-home mode, and you know who else has given us a free sample is Sling TV and YouTube TV, which is a stake through the heart of your cable company because they live in fear of a la carte. What, other than internet access, do we really need the cable company for anymore, other than baseball?
Yeah, well, okay, there, you got me on that one. But we have talked for years on the show, long before the pandemic, that thousands of people were cutting that cord. People want those a la carte, as you mentioned, choices that you just don't get with cable. Of course, cord cutting has been a double-edged sword. People cut the cord because of the high price of cable, but nowadays, with seemingly every network coming out with their own streaming service and each charging their own subscription fees, it's very easy to approach the same monthly cost for the content you want once you've subscribed to all the sources that you want content from. And it gets a little nuts. You know, I want to watch this. Where do I find it? And it's gotten crazy.
I'm having that experience in my new car dashboard, but you're right. The dollars can add up to the same, but at least it's your menu. And until now, baseball was holding us hostage here in New England, NESN, New England Sports Network. It's the only place you can see the Red Sox games, but there are no Red Sox games. So, Dave, your callers' questions are stuff you track very closely. What topics and queries and questions have your callers to your radio show Into Tomorrow been asking you about more so in the last couple months?
Well, I think it may be hard to believe, Holland, but with everyone being confined to home, fitness wearables, whether they be smartwatches or Fitbit kinds of things, have gained even more popularity, especially now that some people can at least go to a park or other open areas and exercise. Go figure. Even during the lockdown, people are out and about walking and jogging while social distancing, of course. And everything work or school from home related, including new laptops and tablets and headset mics. You have things like the Amazon Echo Show and the Google Nest Hub. They've been selling a lot more of their smart video displays like this. And part of the reason is because that's how families are also staying in touch, whether it's grandma or granddad and being able to see the kids, whether they're around the corner or around the country. Those kinds of smart video displays have made a huge difference for a lot of folks.
I love the name of your radio show, Into Tomorrow, because you are so ahead of me, and people think I'm a techie nerdy. What have you seen that we haven't yet that is super cool or super hot? What's on the horizon?
Well, that is a good question, because other than, you know, the typical stuff that we're always running out of, and I hope is finally coming back into fruition, we've got lots of stuff that is happening. For example, this weekend on Into Tomorrow, since you asked, Holland, I chat with the CEO of GoSun that's just come out with some very cool solar-powered items, like an oven, and even, it's kind of an oxymoron to say it, a solar cooler. So being here in Miami and with hurricane season starting on June 1st, those kinds of items are suddenly getting a lot of attention. And of course, some wearable companies, including Fitbit that we mentioned, are now developing wearables with an algorithm to accurately detect a COVID-19 infection before the onset of symptoms even show up. Now, that kind of health tech, I think, can be very helpful to a lot of us.
You know what's a common thread in what you're saying and what Doug Stephan told us earlier in the show is that we're all thinking almost in survival terms lately, aren't we?
Yeah. I think so. We are thinking in survival. And to mention, of course, the stove, the solar cooler, because you may have an issue, whether it's a hurricane or tornado or earthquake or some other natural disaster, where you've got to be in that survival mode. And look at what we've learned during this survival pandemic mode. So some of that technology not only will make a difference, but just some of the things we've learned, if nothing else, how to properly wash our hands comes in handy.
The ultimate low-tech experience. You know, we asked Doug about this supply chain interruption in the food that we eat. It is usually associated with manufacturing. Which tech products and categories have been stalled? Where has the conveyor belt stopped during this pandemic because of supply chain issues?
Well, I think many e-tailers, especially Amazon, have slowed down shipments of all kinds of what they're considering non-essential items, they say, so that they can more quickly ship those essential items like the toilet paper and cleaning products and the like. They've also reserved more space in their warehouses now for those items all around the country. Of course, this has had an adverse effect on many third-party sellers that rely on things like that warehouse space to quickly get their items into customers' hands. But I think it's beginning now, just like the opening up of our communities and our states all around the country, we're beginning to see some difference there. You can go on in the last month or so and apply or buy something, for example, on Amazon that would take overnight, maybe 2 days to get to you. And now it's like sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks, you might receive this. And people are like, what? That's crazy. But now those times are shortening considerably. So I think, I hate the term the new normal, but I think we're getting back to something along those lines with everything that's going on, fortunately.
Yeah, I am real curious to see as this phased reopening unfolds how normal things are. Dave Graveline, intotomorrow.com, the Into Tomorrow radio show. Keep washing your hands, stay safe, and thank you for your time, pal.
My pleasure, Holland, anytime.
If you have been working at home lately, like we all are during the big shutdown, telecommuting, Zoom meetings, etc., have you seen a glimpse of the new normal? And when the all clear sounds, will you go back to the company space? And how will the day-to-day experience in that office change post-pandemic? And what career opportunities will be opportune and not so much in the new normal? On next week's show, human resources expert David Lewis from Operations Inc. will look into the crystal ball for us. And in the meantime, if you're an employer, his website, operationsinc.com, is a rich trove of information you will find useful. That's our show for this week. If you can't watch us live, please set the DVR. You're going to want to see that show next week for sure. And if you see us somewhere else, you can also find us at youtube.com/RTAmerica. On DirecTV, we're channel 321. On Pluto TV, 279. All kinds of James Bond movies on channel 007 there, by the way. And on the Dish, we're 280. And if you haven't yet, promise me you will download our super cool portable TV app. It's free in the App Store, and it's a riot. And if you miss any of our shows live, you can find them on demand and play them on any device, anytime, anywhere at youtube.com/thebigpictureRT. I'm Holland Cooke, sticking close to home here in Rhode Island. Stay safe and question more.